All right, so we are in fact live. So everybody, hello. Um, I'm Charlie with Cooking Secrets from Ben, and this is my friend Dick from one of the greatest names of a channel that you could think of, called Dickin Around Outdoors. Um, so we're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. For those of you on YouTube, hello. And there's Tom Garvey. Tom, how's it going? So, Dick, I want to read your intro because it pretty much sums up um, who you are. It says, "Let me tell you a bit about myself and why I started my YouTube channel. I've loved the outdoors for my entire life and wanted to help others find the joys they bring. I'm hoping to pass down some product knowledge, recipes, and just to have us join on some our outdoor experiences. I don't believe age has any impact on our ability to get outside and enjoy nature, and I certainly don't intend to let it slow me down. So come along for the trip." So um, I was telling you, I've told you this a couple times. Your name of your channel was just one of the greatest names I've ever heard for a YouTube channel. It just reminds me of one of my coaches or teachers, say, hey, you kids, stop dicking around over there.
Yep, exactly.
So, that to me was one of the funny ones. That to me just reminded me, and that statements dicking around. I mean, I still use it to this day. Stop dicking around. So I know you and I are close. You're in the Chicagoland area,
right?
And we're, for those of you out there, we are having just a gorgeous sunshine day. We had a bunch of snow over the weekend, and it seems mostly to have melted. Some big piles, but the roads are clear, the sidewalks are clear. And Dick, I guess same down where you are.
Yeah, mid-40s. We had no snow, so.
Oh, you didn't?
No, maybe the north suburbs got a bit, but we missed it all.
Yeah, we had. I missed it all because I wasn't here, but they got about 6 or 8 inches over multiple snowstorms. But just another beautiful day. It's supposed to keep warming up. So we're about 90 miles relatively apart. I'm on Lake Michigan, and you're you have to be west of Chicago, because if you're east of Chicago, you'd be in Lake Michigan.
In Lake Michigan, yeah. We're western suburbs, so we're actually kind of we're probably as close to DeKalb as we are to Chicago. We're like the last of the collar counties.
So is this where you're from, or did you move there?
No, I grew up in Iowa, as well as the camera lady, who's my wife. If you've never seen the channel, she prefers to go by camera lady instead of Julie. It's like pulling hen's teeth to get her on this side of the camera. But we're both from Iowa, and we've done some traveling around for work, and I did a lot of travel in my work. So that sort of is the genesis. And we came up here in 2003. So we're as close to home now as we've ever been once we started moving around.
Gotcha.
So.
And you've been in the same place since you moved?
Yeah, same house, same neighborhood. It was really, when we first moved up here, the office was about a 20-minute drive. And then, of course, they kept building around, and it became a bit longer drive. But then in 2010, they moved the office downtown, which meant that I became one of the Metro riders, the commuter train riders. And I did that for 10, 11 years. Until sort of the last year, was working from home during COVID, like a lot of people, and then followed by retirement. So,
so you're not working at all now?
No, well, unless you consider YouTube working, but
Well, in many respects, like a guy, Tom Garvey will tell you, he's probably doing it 24/7. He's become the king of the shorts.
Yeah.
So I'm retired too. So I pretty much, this is one of my passions. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy some of the community, the talking to people that I've gotten to know on YouTube, getting to know them a little better. To me, is interesting. I don't care if anybody else really wants,
I totally agree. In fact, we've done on some of our trips, some of the other folks that we follow and follow us on our trip up to, and I don't know if people have seen the channel, but our channel is basically, we travel overland is what they call it now, but it's basically it's traveling and camping, some rough roads, some remote roads, but we actually stopped in Edmonton when we were doing a trip to Alaska and the Arctic Circle last year and met a fellow. And then we were in Wisconsin at Canoecopia a couple weeks ago and actually connected with two other couples. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the great pleasures of what we do is to get out and meet other like-minded people and share stories. And I mean, that's a great part of it. And, as you alluded in that beginning intro on my channel, I mean, that's a part of it, right? Everybody wants to kind of learn from everyone else and share experiences and share tips and hints. And, some people are extremely amazing filmmakers. Other people are, great mechanics and other people want to be good cooks, and that's just kind of the thing. So everybody has their own space that they play in and, you can learn from everybody. So I agree. It's 100% a big part of the community.
So yeah, well, one of the things that has become very clear to me is we're not competitors. We're not competing. Mm-hmm. It's not like you can only watch one YouTube channel and then you're done. I mean, yeah. So I like to see other things. And I mentioned to you that I'm not an outdoor guy. I mean, mm-hmm. I'm not a camper. Right. I'm a city boy. So outdoors to me is, cooking on a grill or going out to sit in the water or, but from a camping standpoint, nah. Ice fishing, nah. But there are parts of what you do that are interesting. We can talk about the cooking part because I think that can apply to just about anything, because outdoor cooking, mm-hmm. Like people like to cook on the grill. Ron, that guy, Ron, thank you, Ginger. Nice to see you too. Ron on the grill does a lot of cooking. He just uses a Weber and mm-hmm. does a lot of just cooking. And I've done some cooking on a grill too. So some of the things that you do there, but you do have products that you have either reviewed or that been sent to you, and you've kind of done some talking about how they fit into the lifestyle that you've chosen. Yep. So one of the things that I saw, tell us, we were talking about this, 2 great U.S. made camping chairs. So one of the things as you get older, you need comfortable chairs to sit outside, whether you're camping or you're sitting in the backyard or you're sitting at the lake or you're sitting anywhere. You need something that, it's not going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. It's comfortable. And doesn't break the bank.
Yeah. And it's hard to find USA made products that some people would never say doesn't break the bank, right? I mean, there is a premium to it, but my background, just to give you an idea of kind of why those 2 chairs in that video came up. My background in outdoors was being a Boy Scout in the late 60s and 70s. And that's where I sort of got my love for the outdoors. And some of my first, I'll call them more remote camping experiences, were on motorcycles and in canoes. And of course, when you're traveling by those modes, you're not carrying a lot of really big equipment, right? So everything has to be kind of compact and packable and neat. And so the 2 chairs that I featured in that video were both designed. In fact, the one called a Kermit chair was designed specifically for motorcyclists. And it's short and small. It packs up very, very nicely. But if you are a bit older and you have knees like we're all getting as we get older, right? They do make extensions on the bottom that you can put on the bottom of the legs and raise it up off the ground. So it can kind of grow with you as you grow older. Maybe not wider, but they do make an XL chair too. So it covers all of us. And then the other one I thought was a really neat design. It was super simple, packs flat. That's the Blue Ridge chair. And both of them made in America. Both are made out of wood and employ American craftsmanship. So, we have both of those. And then, of course, when I'm in my pickup truck and we're carrying all the gear and I have my coolers and everything with me, I've got a big old monster fold-out chair that,
right,
can hold me and the camera lady and probably our cooler at the same time. So
is the camper lady and the camera lady the same person?
Camera lady, just one.
Okay, good.
Kill me if I had a camper lady too, wouldn't she?
Just checking.
I think she has too. I'm waiting. She should hopefully.
So, how often do you travel, and do you? I'm assuming that you plan these things well in advance, or at least have an idea of where you're going to go and where you're going to stop, and what you're trying to accomplish while you're out there.
Yeah. So we try to do one at this point, and it's probably going to change. It'll probably become more frequent, but at this point in time, we try to do one big trip a year. And by big, I mean we're gone for a month. Right. And that will extend. It's kind of funny. The reason we're always gone for that month is we leave after my son starts college. So he kind of starts the semester, I should say. And then we have to be back because I have to do a charity event in mid-September every year. And I happen to cook. I cook the brats and hot dogs for a charity event. So I'm the grill man for that. So we've been doing the month-long trip. And this last year it was driving to the Arctic Ocean. So we actually went up the road in Canada to the only road that you can drive in North America and actually get to the Arctic Ocean. So we did that, and we dipped our toes in the ocean, and then we did a loop around Alaska and came back by the ferry, which was really cool, the Alaska ferry, and then back across. So, we're probably going to do 2 of those next year. Later this year, we're going to go east in Canada and do some of the remote roads. But yeah, the planning takes some time because each one of these places is different and remote, and you have to make sure that you have calculated your gasoline and water and where you can get supplies and, where you need to be self-sufficient. So, that's a big part of it. And kind of steering into the cooking side, we take our Jeep generally, and Jeeps are notoriously great vehicles for driving in remote areas, particularly now where they're more reliable. But they're really, really bad at carrying heavy stuff. They don't carry a lot of, at least if you want to stay within the vehicle's stated limits, right? So we do a lot of our own dehydrating of food. We'll make complete dehydrated meals to take with us and that sort of thing. But, we like to eat well. So we try to find recipes that taste really good, even when they're rehydrated. And we found a couple books that we use for that. And, it just makes it nicer. And then, of course, when we're carrying the heavy stuff, we're always using the Dutch ovens and that kind of thing.
Excuse me. Well, old Tom Garvey, who's on here, was just talking about a dehydrator and whether he should get one or not. And he's going back and forth. So, Tom, if you got any questions for Dick about dehydrator, now it's time to throw them out there.
I think he's really roughing it as room service at 11 p.m.
Yeah, Tom and I are similar in that we're not really we're outdoorsy boys.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a little blurb in that beginning thing, and to me, like you said, going out in your patio and grilling out and just enjoying being outdoors. That's dicking around outdoors in my book, and the whole reason that channel name came up, just to give you a background, of course, I had the good fortune, I guess, of being named Richard in the 60s, and Dick in the 60s was no big deal.
Right.
So I just have been, Dick forever, and we decided to start this channel just to have something to do. Right. I was looking for some information on the product. I couldn't find it, so I bought it and did my first video and said, well, hopefully this helps some other people. then we thought, well, if we're going to have a channel, we have to have a name. And so what are we going to be doing, And we just threw out Dickin' Around Outdoors and thought it was perfect because, with a name like Dick, you don't ever take yourself too seriously or you'd, be getting in fights all the time. So, that's the nature of the channel, right? It's Dickin' Around Outdoors. We don't take ourselves seriously. We don't say you have to do this or that or the other to be an outdoors person. If you want to go sit on the patio with a bottle of wine and grill some shrimp, heck, have at it. I mean, I just like being out of the house. And
I think you've had a couple of videos where you've said you were going to do outdoor, and then you kind of morphed into, I think, wasn't there one recently where it was raining or something?
Yeah, that was the dehydrator video, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Which by the way, has absolutely bombed on the viewer side, but yeah, we were planning on doing some Dutch oven stuff, and it was rainy, and it had rained. It was going to rain again. We thought, well, we need to make some dehydrated stuff for one of our spring overlanding trips. Let's just do that and put a video up. So that was the genesis of that video.
Well, one of the this is on Ginger, who's Not For Nothing Homestead. Are you familiar with Ginger at all?
I've seen her on I think you had her on your.
Yeah. She's
Yep.
great. But she had this one that it's just stuck with me, that she dehydrated a bunch of tomatoes and then ground them. So she's got ground tomato. I don't know if it's called a spice, but she'll just sprinkle that on stuff. And I said,
yeah,
that's a pretty interesting way to do that.
Yeah, we have the tomato powder in the basement. We do that with chili peppers as well. Jalapenos and then grind them up, and we just call it jalapeno dust. But then you don't have to carry fresh jalapenos, but you can get the flavor into the foods you're making wherever you are. So yeah, it's a great way to use a dehydrator.
Well, Tom, there you go. You got some ideas for dehydrating and then grinding and putting the spice in. So,
Yep.
So you got one vote for Dick, so go for it.
Yep. And beef jerky. Gotta always, if you're outdoors, you have to make beef jerky, right? So
where are the favorite places that you've been I know the Alaska trip was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's always hard for me because I love so many places, but I think in my heart, I'm a northern person, kind of a North Mountain. And I would say out of all the places that we've been driving on our driving trips, we had just an unbelievable campsite in Glacier National Park. And it's not on the main part of Glacier. You have to go in on the west side in a small town called Polebridge. And it's getting more well known now, but it used to be just nobody knew about it. And more people are going now that you have to have permits to get into the park and on the Going to the Sun Road. So it's getting more crowded now, but at the time it was pretty, still pretty unknown. It just started to get known. But anyway, there's a campsite that's about an hour drive from the ranger station called Kintla Lake. It's just a stunning area. It's mountains and a lake and a stream and very limited number of campsites. And when we were there, it was what they call, it had gone primitive. So there was no available water. So you had to be water self-sufficient and that kind of thing. But just probably one of the most stunning places I've ever camped. And then, we also had another spot where we had essentially the north rim of the Grand Canyon all to ourselves. We were parked right on the rim, and there was nobody around. It's just, any place I can get isolated and sort of, I don't want to say commune with nature. That's a little hippie for the way I talk, but just to kind of get out there and relax and unwind and decompress is great. But if you can do it in a remote location, it's just that much better.
So are there any places that you would not go back to?
I probably at this point in my life wouldn't canoe through the Everglades again. I did that at one time when I was younger, and a friend of mine, we canoed through the Everglades, and it was very neat in the way that you would canoe and alligators would swim underneath the canoe and you could see them and things. that was cool, but the mosquitoes were horrendous.
Oh,
You know, between the Arctic Circle and the Everglades, those are the worst two places I've ever been for mosquitoes.
really?
Yeah, and they were just brutal. So I probably wouldn't, relish going back and, living in a suit of DEET for the days that I'm in the Everglades.
So, I would not think that mosquitoes would be able to live in that cold of an environment.
The Arctic Circle warms up reasonably well in Alaska and stuff. So you're probably, when you're thinking June, July, maybe into August and maybe into May, the black flies and mosquitoes come out and they're ravenous.
Oh, the black flies, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean, just
get
ravenous.
those up in Michigan, yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those points where you're just getting eaten alive, trying to set up your tent and that kind of thing.
So is in the time in Alaska where there's it's daytime all time, is that summertime?
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember when the solstice is. I think it's late June or in July. I can't remember. I actually had the good fortune. A company I worked for before I moved to Chicago actually owned some assets up in Alaska. So I've been up there numerous times. And one year I happened to be up there during the solstice and had hooked up. I'm a Harley rider as well. And I had hooked up with the Harley Club. And one of the folks had an extra Harley and they said, here, take it, go riding with us. And so I distinctly remember, riding at midnight and 1 a.m. through Alaska and it's just bright daylight out. And it was a fantastic trip.
So do you ever come to Milwaukee for Harley Week?
We did. We went to the 100th, 110th. So we've been up for those two. Yeah, a great time.
It's
Milwaukee's a great city, and the riverfront, the what do you call it? River, the area along the lake where they have all the bands and concerts.
Summerfest.
Yeah, that is such a great location. Yeah,
I'm 2 blocks from Summerfest.
Oh, I know where to stay next time we come up. Then
you're more than welcome.
Yeah, great
but
city.
It's at Harley Week for me. I have the riders. We used to live off of Lake Drive, so as you're coming up, abutting Lake Michigan all the way up, and then kind of circling past Lake Drive. So you can hear just hordes of motorcycles.
Oh yeah.
So we're outside. We lived one house off of Lake Drive, and there would just be this cacophony of motorcycles. And Harley has a distinct sound to it.
Yep.
And there'd just be, for 15 minutes.
While
this group would going up north, wherever they're going, and then there's you've been there, but for those who haven't, Harley has their headquarters here in Milwaukee, and there is I guess it's more of a parking lot area where people get together, and there must be 1,000 people on bikes on bike night, and it's not only during Harley Week. It's near the Iron Horse Hotel, which is
where we stayed when we were there.
I did it, yeah. So then right next is where the bike.
Yep.
And that's another place where it's can't really hear.
But it's so funny. You mentioned the Iron Horse. We stayed there, and we were in the bar one night, just having a drink. After we got done riding, we would come back, and we're sitting next to this guy at the bar, and we just strike up a conversation. And we're talking to him, and he tells us, he's lives in Africa, has a place in Africa and all this stuff, and used to be the CEO of Puma, the tennis shoe company.
Sure.
Well, come to find out, he's now the CEO of Harley.
Oh, really?
Same guy, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're certainly a great industry here in Milwaukee. One of the leaders in both employing and having a brand that's known worldwide. Um,
for sure.
so we're glad, and I, I don't mean to sound like I'm old, like old man, hey, get off my lawn, you guys. Um, but it is hard to hear when they're driving past for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we certainly do appreciate them as a corporate citizen. So are there any places that you haven't been to that you want to get to?
Driving, yeah. I mean, the whole rest of the world, I mean, basically. But the first stop is going to be after this Canada trip in the fall. I want to do Baja.
Uh-huh.
So I want to drive Baja next, probably February. That's kind of on our list. I really, really think that would be a fun trip. And it'd be so much different instead of going north, actually going south and getting some beach time in. But boy, if I had all the time and money in the world, I would absolutely love to ship the Jeep over to Europe, drive around Europe, then head into Africa. Yeah, there's a few places in the world I wouldn't go just for safety reasons and that, but pretty much any other place I'd absolutely love to go. We've hit now 3 oceans this year. We've done Pacific, Arctic, and Atlantic.
Nice.
We're trying to figure out how to get to the Indian Ocean before the end of the year.
I don't think you can drive that.
No, it'd take a long time. So we're trying to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, I had, as I mentioned, I had the great fortune in my previous work life to have traveled, all over. And oddly enough, my undergraduate college degree is in Russian, which go figure, why would you ever study that? But so my very first international trip was to the Soviet Union. And ever since then, I've, gone to Asia and spent a lot of time in South America. I've not been to Africa yet. I'd like to go to Africa. So that's, Africa and Australia, places I haven't been. But
right.
Yeah, I just love to travel. And I love to meet people from everywhere.
So are you a Hawkeye? So you went to Iowa?
I am a Hawkeye. Yes. Thank goodness for the Hawkeye women, right?
Oh yeah, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark. She's my son is. I need to. Hold on a minute. Yeah, she's something else.
Yeah.
So they're still in.
Yeah, and sadly, sadly, I say that jokingly, kids. Both of my kids went to Iowa State, so so we had that divided house divided flag out on the football weekend.
They're in the Iowa State's in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
Conference.
Yep.
They got knocked out early. Oh no, they weren't even in this year. Well, yes, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah, Iowa. Yeah, that's what's the guy? McCartney.
If you're freezing up a little bit, Charlie.
Fran McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Fran McCaffrey is the coach there. Yeah. I have a good friend here in Milwaukee who's an Iowan. From Dubuque.
Very close to where I grew up. Yeah.
His mother just died within the last week or so, and he was going out there for the last 10 years. As he was in failing health, he'd head out, and it was about every other weekend to be out there. So,
it's
not a lot of Iowa trips coming up, but nice. So, tell me what you did for work?
I was in the oil industry.
Okay.
So I did a lot of stuff on the pipelines. It was primarily pipeline operations, some sales, and then ultimately I was in the financial side of it.
Well, they weren't an Iowa company, were they?
No.
Texas?
Oklahoma, and then up here it was BP, British Petroleum.
Mm-hmm.
Our oil headquarters for the U.S. is Chicago, so I was up here with BP for the last part of my career.
So you mentioned a little bit about Camera Lady and your sons who I guess to your chagrin went to Iowa State. Um,
Yeah, one
tell,
daughter, one son. Yeah.
tell us a little about your family.
So the daughter is 24. The son just turned 22.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he is tall, much taller than me and the camera lady. So he gets the prize for that. He's still in school. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure exactly what he wants to do at this point. The daughter just graduated and has a double major in finance and supply chain.
Uh-huh.
And still looking. The economy, despite what they say, is not as robust sometimes. I think for that segment of the hiring, or you know, but she lives over in Iowa now, and he's actually here doing online stuff. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then my wife and I we met at we're from the same hometown in Iowa actually. So
Really?
it's almost what you call the classic American high school sweetheart story.
Yeah, you met her in high school?
I met her when I was just graduating and she was still in school. So,
Okay.
like the first year I was in college is when we started dating. And we've been together. Well, now I graduated high school in 81 and we started dating, fall of 81. So,
You're a youngster.
been a long, yeah, exactly. So,
Um,
yeah, we've been together for a long time. And
yeah.
she is my fantastic travel mate. When we travel together, it's perfect. We don't argue and fight. And so it makes it nice to have someone like that you can travel with, and probably enjoys and pushes me to travel more than I would without her. So,
Well, traveling is um, it's a double-edged sword for me, especially when it's all bunched up. Like
mhm.
I've got so much. I just came back from Florida for a week. I'm going to visit my son in in Santa Fe over Easter, and then we're going to Italy for 2 weeks in May, and then we have our lake
Perfect.
house um, up in Michigan, and some other extraneous travel, Cincinnati, just for like weekends and
Hmm.
weddings, and so it. And when I had times like yesterday when
Yes,
nothing went right, it was just a long, long, arduous day.
it does. It makes it, yeah, it's wearisome.
So, and there was times when I was living in Cincinnati and I worked for a DC company, but in Cincinnati, the airport, the Cincinnati International, or whatever we call it there, CVG, was one of the most expensive places to fly out of in
Really?
the United States because it was a Delta hub, and Delta made
Oh,
sure that you paid for the luxury of having Delta as a hub there.
yeah,
So we would fly either out of Dayton or Louisville
yeah. Hmm.
because it wasn't that much. It took us about a half hour to get to the airport, and then maybe an hour to either place. And so
Yeah,
I'm thinking it's only a half hour difference,
yeah.
and it saves a whole lot of money. But I was at the point where all right, I'm living in Cincinnati. I'm going to DC where I used to live, the company, but I'm flying out of Dayton, and then I'm flying into Baltimore, and then driving into DC. And my head was going to explode with all the, where am I again? Where, and
Yeah,
you just get kind of um, all messed up in your terms of um, what's going on. So,
yeah. That one of the beauties of Chicago, man. You have O'Hare here.
well, we're flying out of O'Hare when we go to Italy.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
so
chance we'll be in Italy sort of November time frame. It's
oh
not
really?
solidified yet, but there's a chance. Yeah.
Well, you take the Jeep over there.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Are you is a pleasure
Yeah,
wedding?
some of our friends are talking about going over and ask if we wanted to go over and hang out. So we're waiting to see if they're really going to do the trip, and then we'll go from there.
Do you know where you're going to be?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't.
I would assume somewhere on the beaten path, not off.
Yeah, they tend to be a little more adventurous, but I would bet that it's going to be on the well beaten path and maybe on the beaten path, if that makes sense, right?
Sure.
So probably wine country would be one. My daughter was supposed to go to one of the cities, Bologna. It's north. It's a.
Bologna's in the north, yes.
She was supposed to go there for college the year that COVID shut everything down, and so we were going to go over and do that, and then try to do stuff along the like Dubrovnik and places like that, which I really want to see, but it got canceled, so we never got to make the trip. But we really would like to get over there.
The University of Bologna is the oldest university in the world.
Is it?
It is.
I'm glad that happened. I'm sure a lot of kids were in the same situation. So.
Oh yeah, and so travel's just now starting to pick up, unfortunately.
Yeah, I tell you, all the airplanes I've been on are packed.
Last night was not, but I have a trick on Southwest that I will share with those of you who are listening. So if you're on Southwest and you're up towards the front, which I usually am, if you get in and get a middle seat, if the flight's not full, you're almost guaranteed not to have to sit next to anybody. Yeah. I think because
exactly.
Most people are traveling in pairs or more.
Yeah.
So they're not going to stop and say, "Hey, can you move over?" They just keep on going down the aisle. So yesterday I was in the third aisle, sat in the middle seat.
Yep.
And as soon as they closed the door, I said, "Okay, I'm great." So I lifted up the armrests and I had the whole row to myself.
Well, that works.
And I did the same thing on the way out. You sit in the middle seat. Guy sat on the aisle next to me, and I said, "Okay, that's fine." I put in my headphones and watching something, and no one's going to stop and crawl across both of us. So that's my Southwest little trick.
Yep.
Seems to work for me.
It works. Yeah, exactly.
So, where else are you on social media? You're on Facebook, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd call my primary is YouTube, just because that's the one I used before even opening the channel, because there's so much good information on it. But we do now have Dickin Around Outdoors on Facebook, and Dickin _ around _ outdoors on Instagram.
Okay.
So we're on those three, and then we just got on Newsbreak. Since we're doing so much traveling and doing some stuff, we thought we'd give that a go. Some of the other folks we met have done some Newsbreak stuff, so we're doing some Newsbreak shorts. But I'm not familiar with that platform, or kind of what it's all about yet.
Well, there's some that are knocking it dead. The Dude is on there. The Dude Kitchen and Grill.
Yeah.
Tom Garvey, I know, is big there. There's a couple others that I had no idea that it was anything other than stuff showing up on my phone with news.
Yeah.
But apparently I can't do the shorts. I don't have the patience. I mess it up. And the ones that I put out are just, I press the wrong button and I can't undo it. And
we actually were looking to get onto the longer format, I don't even know what they call it. But I suspect, being in the Chicago Collar County, they had so many people already on it. They just said that's full. But here, we're doing our shorts thing now, if you want to get on that. So we're figuring we'd try that and maybe move into the other stuff later.
So there's a geographic component to Newsbreak?
I don't know. That's the thing. That's the one thing I could think of when they said it was full, because everybody I talked to said, "Well, that's kind of odd," but either it was full or they didn't like my name or whatever. But who knows?
They not like the name. It's a great name.
Yeah, but that's what they said. It's just it's not available at this time. So here, try the shorts and stuff. So I don't know if we did it again and said we lived in Iowa, if they would say, "Fine, come on and do it." But
well, that's true. I guess, how would they know?
Yeah, and the fact they've already got Dickin Around in their system, but
we all have Dickin Around in our systems.
Exactly. We hope we do, or we're getting too old if we don't.
That's right. So one of the videos that I wanted to ask you about, and you kind of alluded to it a little earlier, was when you went to here's Tom. Newsbreak is good as you go 3 minutes or less. So he's the expert as far as I'm concerned. Him and the Dude both are heavily invested in. Right, I know the dude is. I think Tom floats back and forth because he's real big on YouTube. But it was the Ishnala Supper Club.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
on the Wisconsin Cheese Trail and the end of an overland. So I'm not for. I know that Wisconsin is big into supper clubs,
Mm-hmm.
but I was not familiar with this. But I think it's it's north and west of Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's basically Wisconsin Dells.
Oh, in the Dells. Okay,
In the
gotcha.
Dells, yeah. Yep.
And
So yeah, it's ranked the number one in Wisconsin by whomever ranks supper clubs in Wisconsin. I don't know, but it's real famous and it's super convenient. So when we're coming back from trips west, we'll spend the last night at it's called Mirror Lake Park in Wisconsin, and there's 3 campsites that you can camp at that actually are like steps away from a little trail that's 10 minutes walk from the Ishnala, which means you don't have to get in your car, you don't have to drive to it, so you can go and you can enjoy the brandy old fashions to your heart's content, and then just walk back to camp. And so yeah, it's just a fantastic setup. But we do have our eyes set on a couple, like trying to do some more of the supper clubs as a trip. Because we're big fans of them. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't say it's the best food ever, but there's just a great vibe around it.
You're being accurate and kind.
Yeah. It's not bad, but it's not it's I don't know what you'd call it, upper mid-scale dining, but the atmosphere is just so much fun.
Yeah.
And one place we really want to go to is way north. It's Little Bohemia or what? It's the place where John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd and all those guys had their big shootout with the feds.
Okay.
Where they trapped them up there in northern Wisconsin and had this big shootout. So we want to go up there. We just think that'd be kind of cool from a nostalgia point of view. And it's north by Rhineland or that kind of area up in there somewhere.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Well, the Dells, and then out to Door County, there's
Yep.
There's all sorts of supper clubs out that way. So we went to 1 year. We didn't have any family for Thanksgiving, so let's go up to Door County. We stayed there.
Yeah.
And somebody said we have to check out. I don't even remember the name of the place. It's the best. It's rated the best supper club in Door County. I said,
yeah,
that's got to be a good endorsement. So I walked into the place and I'm thinking, this is the best place in Door County.
That's like being the best YouTube channel in Geneva, Illinois, right?
Or the fat camp.
Yeah.
I was the food was as you just described. It's it wasn't bad, but
yeah,
I'm not sure what the ranking for the best supper club could not have been the food.
Yeah, probably
I wanted to ask you,
brandy old fashions they sell every year. maybe
there's a couple of the. Are you familiar with the Bartolotta's chain up here? The Bartolotta's, they're like I'm trying to think who in Chicago. Somebody who in Chicago has a bunch of different restaurants. They're all none of them are the same, but they're all pretty nice. Mostly close to high end.
There's these groups. I don't know what their names are, but they'll have a barbecue place and a supper club place and different stuff, and they're all quite good. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, Tom. It's Dick's fault, I'm pretty sure. There's a place. The Bartolotta family runs a bunch of restaurants here, and they have supper clubs. Now those are high-end supper clubs that you go and go. Yeah, okay. But Bartolottas do everything top end. Steakhouses and Italian restaurants, and then they've got a series of different places. They're in some of the the airport food eating
Oh,
places.
yeah.
They'll say if you're ever in the Milwaukee airport, it says Bartolotta presents. That's who we are. So anyway,
We'll have to
they're
check
going
it
to.
out because we love to come to Milwaukee, and we're big fans of that Brew House Hotel,
Of which one?
the Brew House. Are you
Oh,
familiar
sure.
with that? Yeah,
By Pabst.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool old hotel, and it's got that, the Blue Ribbon Lounge, the Blue
Yes.
Ribbon Tavern attached to it. We love that place.
Yeah,
And it's not fancy, but boy, is it good food.
Well, one thing Milwaukee has is a bunch of old breweries that are now
It's right.
that are either condos or offices or have turned into, like with Pabst, kind of a destination area.
Yeah.
So my wife used to live when she first moved here at the Blatz, which is Blatz beer.
Yeah.
So the Blatz brewery was now made into condos, and there's a whole office complex inside of it. And she works at Schlitz Park, which is
of course
Schlitz was made. So that's a huge, huge operation. And then there's obviously just Pabst. Miller is still in actual working order. And there's one more that I'm trying to think of. But they're all the same. They have a lot of the same signage to say this is Bottle House or Keg Center or whatever. That was there when it was an actual working brewery, but it's now it's an office complex. So we're like that.
Well, of course, my wife is a huge fan of Spotted Cow too. So, we have to go to New Glarus every now and then.
You can't get it anywhere, but for what I
No,
know,
you can't.
Yeah,
you can't.
I don't sell it in the Chicago area at all.
No, we have to. Sometimes when we go home, when we're driving over to Iowa, we'll just flip a few miles out of the way to the closest convenience store to grab some. So
it's a nice, smooth. It's what we have in the refrigerator all the time, and
it's good.
My son, whenever we go anywhere, I won't take it on the plane with me, but when we go up to Michigan, if they're coming to stay with us for a bit, or when he's coming here, we always make sure we have extra Spotted Cow in the fridge. That's his
good man
choice.
Good man. Yeah. Me, on the other hand, I tend to like Guinness, but or an IPA, and I know that now is kind of a trendy thing, but I've been an IPA guy for 30, 40 years before it was big. But there was I lived in Minnesota for a couple of years, and there were a couple breweries up there, Summit and James Page, that had really good IPAs. And then, of course, Liberty had Anchor Steam, had a Liberty ale. And so I've always gravitated towards that. And they're getting so creative with the breweries now. It's crazy. But
so I wanted to ask you about some of these ones that are cooking related.
Yeah, I was wondering who was going to.
Yeah. This is outdoor cheesy polenta cast iron cooking.
Yes.
So that's two things. I love polenta, and I usually make it in the microwave. So, you boil the package and then you take it out and you make it. So I make risotto in the microwave. So tell me about that. And you cook it. You're not stirring that, ad nauseum like you would on the stovetop, are you?
No, we used instant polenta.
Okay.
So here's my take on my cooking business. For the most part, is that the recipes I try to come up with, and I'm not creating these things out of the blue. Right. Generally, I'll take something I found in a cookbook of sorts, and I'll modify it a bit, or I'll cook it and I'll attribute it, to where it came from. But my goal is for the most part, to make recipes that people can make if they're camping, that don't take a ton of refrigerated ingredients, because for the most part, when we travel long distances, we don't have a cooler, we don't have a refrigerator. So, what types of things can people cook at camp that are good, right? Because anybody can stick a hot dog on a stick and put it out there, but
Sure.
what can you do to make good food at camp that that's easy? And so the polenta was one of those. The actual recipe came from I don't know if you know who this Yotam Ottolenghi is.
No.
He's a big Middle Eastern chef from London,
Uh-huh.
and he's just got. I mean, it's fantastic food. And so this recipe actually came out of one of his test kitchen cookbooks. But we tried to modify it to say how could we make it easier to do it at camp. So hence the instant polenta, right? And
Right.
then everything else, you just simmer it and you make this great sauce. And I really was never a polenta eater. I mean, my wife likes it a lot. I just never, jumped on it. But my gosh, this was so good. It was, just super tasty. You can make it at home very easily.
Right.
It's nothing I make. You have to make at camp, but um, that's kind of my goal with these things: is how can you eat well in the woods without being, a foodie or fancy? Because some of the guys that are outside and they have campers, which you have a full kitchen in the camper, you might have a microwave and all sorts of things, but or some of the other folks have really fancy setups in their Jeeps or their trucks where they can plug in a blender and all this other stuff, which the vast majority of people don't have.
Is that really camping with a blender and a microwave?
I mean, some people like to eat really well in the woods, I guess, but most people don't have that. So, how can you? And so maybe it's an aspirational, and people like watching the videos because they like, how can you make this stuff? But for me, I don't have all that, and so I think I had one recipe, which was the burrito tacos, where I had a stick blender that I plugged into my portable power station and actually blended up all the ingredients and made
Mhm.
tacos. But that was a pretty complex recipe. I had to use my camping pressure cooker to cook the chuck, and then we cooked all the other stuff and blended it up, and then we had another cooker that we had to fry it on. But it was good. But so that's sort of the genesis of the way I cook. And you'll see a lot of casseroles and a lot of like when I made enchiladas, instead of trying to wrap the enchiladas and make them look all fancy at camp, we just, tore up the tortillas, threw them in the pot, and cooked it as a kind of a casserole, and it came out fantastic.
That's the green chili enchilada.
Green chili enchilada.
Yeah, that's the one of the ones I saw that I really liked.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That was a really good recipe. And if you're a Southern guy or you like Southern food,
Mm-hmm.
the biscuits and gravy casserole. Oh, that one's really good.
It just sounds like it's going to sit in your stomach all day.
Oh man, it was. We normally eat the food we cook, right? It's we just don't make it. We normally eat it, and that one, we just gobbled it down. It was crazy how fast that one went. And then the other one that I think is probably at least Julie's favorite, her camera lady's favorite, is the Salisbury steak, where you use in order to stick with my theme, right? You use hamburger, but then it's canned mushrooms and a can of or a jar of gravy, and
Right.
you eat it over instant mashed potatoes. But that one's good. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I like to do, just from a convenience standpoint, is if I'm on a grill, I don't want to have to go back inside and check the beans or check whatever. If I can do everything on the grill.
Yep.
And that's what some of your recipes entail, like the polenta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be done on the side as you're cooking something else. And that I never thought of the instant. That just it never even occurred to me, but it will from now on. I love polenta. And is Julie G related to Camera Lady?
That would be Camera Lady. Yep.
Oh, do Camera Lady. No, but that's the kind of thing. And a lot of, especially gas, have side burners.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes it so much easier to, if you could take some of these, instead of having to go back and forth between the grill, the kitchen, or outdoor cooking. It just so that's where it makes a lot of sense to me, and that's where the kind of the things that I would be interested in. Another one that I saw, this is a breakfast one. It was this Spanish tortilla frittata style breakfast in a cast iron Dutch oven.
That was really good as well.
Yes, I know.
It wasn't. Usually the Spanish tortillas has potatoes in it. It's kind of the traditional one. We didn't have potatoes, but to be able to do that in a Dutch oven at camp and have it flip out of the Dutch oven and not just be torn apart, that was a big success for me for Dutch oven cooking. And that's, if I can do something at camp in one pot, that's a huge win for me.
Sure.
Right. And then you only have to clean it. And if it's a good seasoned cast iron, cleaning it's nothing, right? It's very easy. So yeah, that one turned out really, really well. And boy, I'd encourage anybody to try that one. That it was good.
Well, in our family, we call frittatas clean out the oven breakfast. I mean, clean out the kitchen breakfast.
Yeah, it's just mix anything and everything with eggs, right?
Pretty much. And then you cook it on the stovetop, stick it in the oven, and then it. I'd like to try this. In an outside cook that just it was easy enough, and it certainly came together, and you can put just whatever you want in it.
You really can. You absolutely can. And it goes back to my theme of if you can throw it in it. And the other thing, Charlie, we don't do gas, so at home I have 3 grills, and every one of them is charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
Or charcoal and wood. So the smokers are, I generally fuel with wood, but they're with charcoal, but then I add wood. So when we go camping, I usually cook over charcoal. And when we're really camping, I just grab some embers out of the fire and use that. But when I'm doing recipes at home or, for the channel, I generally use charcoal because it's easier for people to kind of grab a bag of charcoal if they want to try it and use their own Dutch oven. It's easier for them. But so that's the other thing is every time I do a recipe, it's a little hit or miss because 350 in a Dutch oven is so many bricks of charcoal maybe if the wind's not blowing or whatever. So it's always kind of a hit or miss as how stuff turns out or how much time it takes or. I did one recipe. It was the beer bread. And to me, that's it's so easy at camp and it's so good to have fresh bread. But I think if I recall when I was making that, once you put there's a baking soda, baking powder, one of the two in it, it starts acting right away. Well, UPS man came to the door delivering some wine or something. So I walked out and I chatted with him and had to sign for the wine and whatnot. When I went back out and cooked it, all the leavening, it just gone away and it was just flat and hard as a pancake. So I had to do it all over again for the channel.
Yeah.
And I showed the one about don't get distracted and not get it in the oven. So, but
yeah, steak.
You're cracking up again.
Yeah. So I know. I'm sure it's these. So when I lived in the house down the road here, had gas because it was the easiest thing to do and not worry about it. But we're up in Michigan. Mm-hmm. We only have charcoal.
Yep.
I only have a Weber and I have a smoker too. So, I do both. And city living, it's convenience. And when we're in by the lake house, it's we're going to sit around and chit chat.
Well, I think that's the magic for me is that if you're using charcoal, it is a process. You have to kind of think ahead. You start the charcoal, you have a beer and you have a chat and then you put it on and everybody's outside. It's more of a maybe process is not a great word, but it's just more of a community event. Community is a big word there, but there were times where I've had the smoker going in the backyard and the wood, and I'm sure anybody that smokes has a similar story, but you'll just have people wander over what are you cooking today? And the next thing you know, you got 5 or 6 people sitting around sniffing the smoke and drinking a beer. And it's just, it's relaxing. You're outdoors. It's such a great thing,
Yeah.
And I don't see that so much with the gas grills. And, because you turn it on, you cook, and you're done, right? It's not that process.
Right.
Not that I have anything
it's convenient.
Yeah.
It's a convenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Push a button, it's on. You cook it, you turn it off, you go in the house. I mean, that's city living, and for working and just a weeknight thing, I'm not going to do the charcoal. But I do have
days when I wish I had one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but exactly what you said. It's a process. People are sitting out as the coals are getting hot, and depending on how things come together, it's going to take an hour or so.
Yeah, it's kind of an urban campfire environment, So
absolutely. Well, Dick, we've been on for about an hour. This has been a blast. If I had one more, the one thing I want to ask you is that the grill with its own beer throws a party.
So I lived for about 10 years in Oklahoma and Tulsa. And there's a company down there that's been making grills since 1948. Don't hold me to that, but since 1948, called Hasty Bake. And
that was the guy you interviewed.
Well, he's one of my buddies from when I lived there, who's an ambassador for Hasty Bake. So they'll go around and they'll, do cooking for people, or they'll do demonstrations or whatever. And he's one of the guys that does that. In fact, I think he was the first one ever. So I was down there just to visit during they had an annual barbecue cook-off in our parking lot. And so we just hung out and we tried all the barbecue. And then he said, come get this beer. And it was actually the beer. I don't know who they had make it for him, but the can had one of the grills on it and it's smoking away, So it was just, that's where it came from. So
that was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dick, I appreciate, and camera lady Julie, thank you for all that you do to make Dick's channel, Dickin' Around Outdoors, the success it is. It's I enjoy watching his stuff. I enjoy the recipes a lot, and then the whole travel log of where you go and how you put things together. It's a great channel. So I hope you continue to be able to travel around and document everything, and don't every once in a while, I'm sure you do what I do, is forget to turn the stupid camera on, and
or usually the mic. So Julie's always good about the camera, but I'm not so good with the mic. But talking about traveling, one of the things we're going to do here in a month or two is we've got a 2013 Corvette, and we're going to drive Route 66.
Oh, right. You were mentioning that, yeah.
Yeah, but in order to make it a little bit more interesting, we're going to try to live out of it while we
live out of your car.
We're going to camp. So everything we take has got to fit in the Corvette, which is not. It's a convertible, so there's not a lot of space in it. So we're going to have to take all of our clothes, our tent, all of our food, our cooking. Anything we do is going to fit in that Corvette. So
and you'll get about 8 miles to the gallon. So
actually, that thing's pretty good. It's over 20. It's over 20 with a 7-liter V8. Believe it or not.
I always wanted a vet, but I could never convince whoever I was living with at the time that it was a good expenditure.
Yeah. Well, it's a toy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's not a daily driver, particularly up where we live, right? But it is fun, and so we're going to do that. So stick around and see if we can pack all of our food and everything in a Corvette.
Well, that'll be a great one. So if you do get up to Milwaukee, let me know.
For sure, we'll definitely do that.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and again, your channel is great. We love watching it. Love the series with the local celebrities and local community leaders. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I do enjoy it. So I'm glad you do enjoy it. But thanks.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
All right.
So.
Well, Dick, thanks so much. Thanks to everybody who's out there watching. My guy Tom Garvey, great to see you, my brother. And we'll see you next time around the internet.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.
All right, see you guys.
All right.